All right, here we go. This was actually played on TV once when I was being interviewed, and I played the CVP, and it kind of got everybody all excited. It's the when I asked if anyone knows who Robert E. Lee is. Do you remember this?
Did you ever hear of Robert E. Lee? Stupid question. How about 15 Lee? Was he your commander? Were you in the battle here? Were you wounded in the battle here? Were you killed here?
Your guess is as good as mine what the last little bit is, but it's definitely something about Robert E. Lee. Like, yeah, you idiot. We know who Robert E. Lee is, so I'll take that for what it is.
Was that Cashtown?
No, that was at an East Cavalry battlefield.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, the next place that I would like to recommend is Fairfield. Fairfield is about 8 miles southwest of Gettysburg. Take Route 116 the other way, to the west. You'll go over Seminary Ridge, you'll go past David Stewart Farm, and you will hit a road called Carroll's Tract Road. Turn right there. Within a mile or two, you'll see some of those historic plaques that you see all over the battlefield. Strange place to have a battle? No, not necessarily. What happened is that the 6th U.S. Cavalry heard that there was a group of Confederate wagons heading north on that road, heading towards Cashtown on that road. And so they went after them. Well, they had about 600 men with them. There were about 1,000 men on the Confederate side, cavalrymen coming back towards them, okay? And they had a big cavalry fight out there. The Union troops were driven out. The weird part is the casualties were 242 for the Union troops, only 34 for the Confederates. Most of those Union troops were captured. 208 or so were captured. So it was kind of a lopsided battle. The key to it, though, was that it saved the Hagerstown Road, which was Route 116 through Fairfield. It secured that for Robert E. Lee's retreat a couple days later. All right, if they hadn't won that battle and the Union had held Fairfield, it would have been trouble for the Confederates. They couldn't have gotten out. So the Fairfield Inn is there. Great place to stay. They have overnight accommodations if you want to spend several or a day doing that battlefield, or the houses in town. Some of them were used as hospitals. Some churches were used as hospitals. Fairfield Inn is a great place to stay and a good place to eat as well. Now, everybody investigates the triangular field. It's one of my favorite places. I wrote a book about a guy who was killed out there, called 35 Days to Gettysburg. However, what a lot of people don't investigate is the bottom of the triangular field. A couple of years ago, a video surfaced where you could see phantom soldiers, what they call phantom soldiers. Remember that? Coming down at the bottom of that. And I always said, well, I'm not too sure about that, because down there is where the Boy Scout hiking trail is. Okay? It could have been Boy Scouts down there. That's why I never made a positive comment about that, saying, oh, absolutely, that's ghosts. To get to the Boy Scout trail, which is not crowded, okay, unlike the triangular field, go right past where you park to do the triangular field. The very next crossroads down into the woods, turn left. Go down to the bottom of the hill and you'll see a trail that goes across, so you can park somewhere. There's no parking really there, but you can park somewhere where the cars can get by you. Go back on that and you'll hit the bottom of that triangular field. It doesn't look anything like it did at the time of that video because they cut down a lot of trees. So now you have A nice place down there that you can actually do a paranormal investigation down there. It's quiet, get some pictures.
Mark,
But, yes.
Is that the old trolley path?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. Now, one thing about this place is that it's on the battlefield, okay? And after 10 o'clock at night, same thing with East Cavalry Battlefield, you're not allowed to go out there after 10. If you do get caught, you did not hear any of this from me, okay? Don't mention my name, whatever you do. Now, there's another place that has not been investigated much. I keep hearing about these things about the Suicide Bridge, okay? And this happened, I heard this a couple years ago, that another ghost tour company has taken a bunch of people out to the Suicide Bridge. And I lived there for 30 years. And all that time, the only time I heard this Suicide Bridge was a couple of years ago, okay? So, I'm not saying anything, but...
Isn't that the Eisenhower Bridge you're talking about?
yeah, the Eisenhower Bridge. It's a steel bridge. When I was 20 years old, we used to ride our bikes out there. You know, so I've never heard of that stuff. However, there is a suicide tower out there. If you go down out south of Gettysburg on the Emmitsburg Road, Route 15, first crossroads you come to, the Millerstown Road. In other words, where the peach orchard is. Turn right. Very next stop sign, turn left, and you'll be going into a parking lot. There is what's known as the Longstreet Tower, the Eisenhower Tower. In 2007, a 47-year-old woman from Annapolis, Maryland, threw herself off that tower. Unfortunately, the kids that found her dead in the morning were some Canadian kids on a wonderful high school trip to Gettysburg. As far as I know, some people have heard moans out there. Now, whether that's her or, and I mean, soldiers are out there too. But so there may be some auditory stuff, but that would be a great place to try and do a paranormal investigation, because I haven't heard anybody doing a paranormal investigation out there. So I think it'd be a good...
Is that like on the road to Sachs Bridge? You turn off before you get to Sachs?
Yes, you turn off before you get to Sachs Bridge, yeah. And of course, I don't mention Sachs. What's that?
That little steel bridge that's close by there.
I know, that's the first turn, and then the next one is, they both end up out at Sachs Bridge. At any rate, again, I don't recommend Sachs Bridge anymore because, once again, it's too crowded, it's too busy. But the Eisenhower Tower, if you go at the right time, early in the morning before the buses get out there, no one's ever done anything out there as far as I know. Longstreet, Eisenhower Tower. Another favorite place of mine that not too many people have done is Coster Avenue. It's, if you take Stratton Street, it's a street that parallels Carlisle Street in Gettysburg, okay? Going north from the square. If you go one block over, that's Stratton Street. Take that north, and you will eventually get maybe 4 blocks. You'll see Coster Avenue on the right. Go back there, and it really dead ends into like what looks like a field. That's actually Coster Avenue. You'll see some monuments there. You'll also see a beautiful mural out there. I thought we were going to have, I have a PowerPoint while there, but I don't have anything to show. At any rate, it's a beautiful mural out there. Not too many people have seen it. The story about Coster Avenue is that Coster's Brigade, here you have on the north end of town, everything disintegrating for the Union. It's afternoon of July 1st. They're retreating through town, and as these guys are retreating in total disarray, here comes Coster's Brigade. About 970 men came out, and they hit a brickyard, Coons Brickyard out there, and they spread out on a little post and rail fence. Not real good defensive position to be behind. Little rails about that big. Sweeping down on them were several Confederate brigades, 3,000 men against 1,000. Not very good odds. One of the guys there said, "We only had a chance to fire our weapons 6 to 9 times. Good soldier at the time of the Civil War could fire 2, maybe 3 shots a minute. Usually 2 under fire, sometimes 1. They were out there for not very long, 7, 8 minutes. And they had to retreat, began the retreat. When they got back and regrouped on Cemetery Hill, they had suffered, they looked around and realized they had suffered 77% casualties. They lost 77% of their men, 3/4 of their men out there in just a few minutes, including an unidentified Union sergeant who was found, and this might start to sound familiar, clutching in his hand, in his dead hand, a tintype, a photograph of 3 small children. Okay, this was a heart-rending moment because people found him with this, and they realized this poor guy was thinking about his children at the last minute. And so they publicized this, and it turns out the sergeant was Amos Humiston. Amos Humiston, then from all the publicity, trying to find out who this guy was, people were sending donations like crazy. It ended up going to an orphanage in Gettysburg, became the Homestead Orphanage, and a lot of little children were taken care of, orphans from the American Civil War. I went out there, and it's really nice because it's kind of off in the distance. It's not part of the park, so you can go out there anytime you want. And let me see if I can get these glasses. All right, here we go.
Sergeant Humiston. Sergeant Humiston. Are you here? Are you comfortable? Sergeant Humiston, did you think about your children?
Birds. So it's not, it's, like I said, it's not it's in the town, but it's kind of remote. So you can get out there and do that. That's a great place. That's the Coster Avenue Brickyard fight. I'm trying to hurry so I give the other people time. Camp Letterman. Prior to the establishment of Camp Letterman out on Route 30 going east of town, there were 60 field hospitals all over the battlefield. Impossibility for logistics, okay? How can you deliver food, bandages, water, nurses to all these different places? It was impossible. So they consolidated the almost 5,000 Union and Confederates into one spot called Camp Letterman. If you go out now, of course, urban sprawl has pretty much destroyed anything that was left of Camp Letterman. However, Gettysburg Battlefield Preservation Association negotiated with Giant Foods, the big grocery store, for a little section of their parking lot, which was part of Camp Letterman, to put up a couple of benches and a couple of plaques. So if you go out Route 30 going east, go to, it's at a light where, in a big sign for the Giant grocery store on the right hand side, turn right, turn left behind the Giant gas station there, and head all the way back. And it's behind a local hotel, but it's quiet back there. And you can go out there anytime, day or night. All right? So I would recommend going out there. That's a nice, quiet place to try and get some EVP. I got some EVP out there years ago. It's very quiet. You got to listen to it. I'll try and point to when it happens. I asked a guy if he died out there and what his name was, okay? And I think he says his name is Jacob Voos, or something like that. See if you hear something similar to that.
For the person who died here, give us your
You're Jacob.
Jacob. You heard Jacob.
Yeah.
Abuses.
So,
What state were you from?
I didn't get any other stuff.
Who's your president?
Something was there.
See, yeah, there's something there. I asked that because one time I asked that and I got Jefferson Davis. We're talking to a Confederate.
Were you at the corner of right there where the plaques are?
Yes.
You captured it?
Yeah.
Those plaques are,
You can't read them anymore.
Oh, really?
They're a mess.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's a shame.
Oh, I saw them when they were brand new.
They're just weathered. Very
Oh,
weathered.
that's too bad. Hospital Woods. There are a lot of hospital woods out in Gettysburg, okay? The one that I'm talking about is on Country Club Lane. If you head out towards, on Route 30 to the west, you'll go through the battlefield, down across Willoughby Run. As you're coming up on the left-hand side is Country Club Lane. Used to be very exclusive to the high muckety mucks in Gettysburg, okay?
It's where we live now, actually.
Oh, is it really? Okay. The new high muckety mucks. Well, I was never invited out there. So. At any rate, you drive out there, and the road bears to the left, and then to the right, and then on your right-hand side, all that woods out there. National Park Service property, but that's one of the hospital woods out there. Greg Coco, who did a lot of work on the aftermath of the battle, said about 63 Confederates were buried out there at one time or another. Whether they got all the bodies, no one knows. They're still finding bodies out there on the battlefield. At any rate, this particular hospital woods was across the street from a friend of mine, her house. She had tons of poltergeist activity out there, including moved pillows and books, lights aglow after she turned them off and gone to bed, electronic equipment going haywire, including phones, nail holes driven destructively into fine furniture, grandfather clock going off at all hours, doors opened, which she was sure she had closed, and a heavy bureau pulled away from the wall twice. Not once, but twice. So that's a pretty active place in that
I always
area.
wondered why they built those string of homes right there in the middle of the field and didn't build anything else. There's just that one set of homes through there.
Well, that used to be the country club on the other side of the road.
Oh, the golf thing?
The golf course, yeah. So you had a row of homes, and that was you would go out there and see people golfing.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of people bought out there.
Right.
So that may explain it. So.
But they cut right through where the Confederates advanced.
Oh yeah,
Those homes
well,
are right there.
it was all private.
Yeah.
All
He
private.
thinks they should be taken down.
No.
Well, some people agree, you know.
It's just a strange place to build them, that's all.
Yeah. Well, it's prime property,
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
that's
Still is. It's real pretty out there. I like it. I'll be out later on tonight.
Come on.
Hospital Road. Hospital Woods, Hospital Road. If you go out the old Baltimore Pike from going south from Gettysburg, look for the signs for the Balladary Inn. Turn right. You'll eventually follow the signs. You'll get on Hospital Road. Why do they call it Hospital Road? There was water out there, so right after the battle, some of those 60 far-flung hospitals were put out there. All right, the Balladary Inn, if you want to spend any time out there at all, stay at the Balladary Inn. Very active, okay? Paranormally, I'm talking about. And it'll also give you an opportunity that you can go out and do some work out there at the Hospital Road. I remember going past a house on Hospital Road when I was working on my books. Almost every time I went out there was a for sale sign. Next time I go by, it was gone. Then I go out there again, there's a for sale sign. And I'm like, what's going on out there? And we do our haunted crime scenes weekend with the Balladary Inn now. We Google it or go to our website, ghostsofgettysburg.com, and you'll find out what our haunted crime scenes are. Another place, Benner's Hill. Not too many people go to Benner's Hill. If you head out Route 116 going east, you head out of town, you're going to go across Rock Creek, up the hill, start to slow down because right at the top of the hill, you turn right. You'll see the brown National Park Service sign, once again closed after 10. Out there is, not a real good view of Gettysburg, but it's nice and quiet. Major Latimer, Joseph Latimer, was only 19 years old when he took his 14 guns out there, Confederate guns, put them all on there. He had to protect the extreme left flank of the Confederate Army. Okay, and so he did fairly well, even though the Union guns on his opposite number seemed to have already known that he was going to use that as a defensive position. Immediately, they had his range, and he ordered 10 of those guns back to protect the gunners, horses. And with the 4, he said, I can't order any of my men to be up there. I'll take command of these 4 guns. Well, eventually he was shot, his arm was mangled. Artillery does not a very good job on it, you know what I mean? And they took him back to the Daniel Lady farm, which is the farm that's just behind Benner's Hill, operated on him, and 3 weeks before his 20th birthday, instead of graduating from VMI, which is where he had been going to school, he was being buried in the Lexington, Virginia cemetery. He died from infection after that. It's a rarely visited part of the field. It's nice, got a little cul-de-sac back there, and it'd be a good place to do a paranormal investigation. Spangler's Meadow, okay? Easiest way to get there is go in on the Baltimore Street side on Lefevre Street. Mr. G's Ice Cream. Everybody knows where that is, right? Mr. G's Ice Cream, take that all the way back till it kind of dead ends at a stop sign at the National Park Service Road, turn right. That will take you all the way back to Spangler Spring. Okay? Just before you get to Spangler Spring, look to the left and you will see a meadow out there with a kind of a weird looking fork-like monument. That's the Indiana monument out there. And if you look, you'll see that there's only about 100 yards between the woods and the road. If you're on the road to your right, all the Confederates are there. Across the meadow on your left, you'll see some woods. A Massachusetts unit and a Indiana unit were to charge across that and kick the Confederates out. They were led by Lieutenant Colonel Charles R. Mudge, once again only 24 years old, Harvard grad. He looked to his staff when he was given this order. He said, it was murder, but it's the order. And he led his men out there. They got to the middle of that field and realized it was a swamp, and they got bogged down, so they couldn't move hardly at all. Confederates just poured it into them. As soon as the firing started, I'm giving you some of these names in case you want to use them out there. Color Sergeant Levitt C. Durgan was killed. He was color sergeant, holding the colors, before the regiment even got halfway across this open field. So was the next man to pick up the flag. 3 more flag bearers were shot down in the next few minutes. 5 flag bearers went down in just a few minutes as they're coming across that field. 2nd Massachusetts lost over 40%. Indiana lost about 30%. However, it's a nice, quiet place out there. Everybody else is over there at Spangler Spring, and you can be doing an investigation out there by the Indiana Monument. Pardee Field. Hardly anybody knows about Pardee Field, but it's a really quiet area. From Spangler Spring, you want to just continue, bear left onto the one-way road past the Stone Cottage, which is a restroom. Look for the large rock on your right that says Pardee Field. Had a beautiful picture of it, but sorry. 7 acres. And the fighting at Culps Hill was some of the longest in the entire Battle of Gettysburg. Started in the evening of July 2nd, died down, and then started up again and went another 6 or 7 hours in the morning hours from 5 o'clock of July 3rd on. Marylanders fought out there on both sides. Okay, it's literally neighbor against neighbor. Some, quote, friendly fire was poured in on it and took out a number of Connecticut soldiers from that area. But the Yankees were successful there and drove the Confederates from Pardee Field. But it's a very interesting place out there, and I would recommend going to that. The Culps Hill angle. You've heard of the angle at the high water mark? This is Culps Hill. As soon as you come out of Pardee Field, over the hill, there's a stop sign, almost straight ahead of you or a little to the left, and you'll see the angle. It's easier to see when there are no trees out there, but in the summertime you can even see it. From Greg Coco's book, Strange and Blighted Land, a guy by the name of J. Howard Wirt came out there right after the battle. And he described the angle in the Union line on Culps Hill as covered so thickly with the dead that for 4 acres one could hardly walk without stepping on a body. 4 acres. The Confederate side of the angle, the bodies were stacked 3 deep, some piles of bodies almost to the height of the breastworks. Okay, nasty, nasty fighting in that area. Look at the monuments, and you'll see they're clustered on either side of the road. I mean, there's so many troops are out there, it's unbelievable. Some of the ghost stories out there, strange flashes of light people saw even during the day. Caught on film, cries for help being heard echoing through the woods. They called park rangers out there. Even the park rangers heard the cries, but they couldn't find them anywhere. And the steel tower there on the summit of Culps Hill is haunted. You'll hear footsteps. Some people hear footsteps, but they won't see anything. Chamberlain Avenue, everybody goes to the front of Little Round Top. Go around behind Little Round Top. There's like an avenue, like a road. They paved it because of the movie Gettysburg, so much interest in Chamberlain. At any rate, from there you can go to Company B Monument back out there, but at any rate, it's a lot more quiet than trying to do up on the top there. I've gotten EVP there, but nothing from Colonel Chamberlain, even though I wrote a book about him. Still wouldn't answer me.
No bayonets, huh?
So what's your order? What's your orders? Sir. Never heard it. Lee's headquarters. Boy, that's changed a lot since many, it used to be Larson's Motel. That's all gone now. It's kind of neat. You park out there. I don't know if, because the Park Service doesn't own it. I think they're in cooperation with the nonprofit that bought it. If so, it doesn't matter. You can get way off into the distance. And there was a little, when the Monahans owned it, Pete Monahan showed me a little gravestone out there. He thought it might have been a child. It was this close to the building. Okay? See if you can find that out there. I hope it's still there and they just didn't get rid of it at any rate. So that would be a good place. And now, my favorite, which is really interesting because it took me 25 years to finally figure this out, the old Radio Shack site. None of you here will know where the old Radio Shack was. However, it's now the campus for Harrisburg Area Community College, affectionately known as HAC. Okay? Go out Route 15, Business 15, north of town, across from what is known as the Alms House. You'll see a big sign for HAC. Go in there, go to the back of the parking lot. As you're headed back there, there's a Head Start building. That is where the old Radio Shack used to be. The woman who was the manager there, I'd go in and get parts and stuff, and she came to me one time. She said, "You wrote the ghost books, right?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "You got to investigate this place." I said, "Why?" "It's a modern electronics place." She said, She said, I come in here in the morning sometimes, have at least 3 times now, 2 or 3 times. And the TV's on in the back. So I walk to the back of the room and I go up to it and all of a sudden I see it go like that, and get quiet, and turn off. I thought maybe it was one of my coworkers, but I'm the only one there. And I walk over and it's unplugged. Not even plugged in. She said, this has happened a couple times already. So that area I always knew was kind of haunted, so I decided I'm going to go out there. And this was just last week, okay? Just last week I went out there with my trusty recorder, and I got the following EVP.
But anyone from Early Division out here. How about year 4?
Okay? Next one.
Was it one of you that would play with the, what we call the television in the Radio Shack business that was here years ago?
A little angry.
Sounds like a lion.
A little angry.
I guess I'm trying to, well, I'll tell you in a
I
second.
can't decipher that.
You confess you not want me out here right now? Do you not want to talk to me?
I did not go running off screaming like a little girl. I stayed there, and I got this.
Are some of you Confederates still buried out here? Is that why?
That's EVP. You can't understand it. Maybe they don't know how to modulate their own voices. I don't know. They don't have ears now. They can't hear themselves. But it's EVP, it's very impressive. So those are the places, if I were you, that's where I would go. And because my wife and I are such nice people, actually it's my wife's idea, she made up these maps. Come see us tomorrow, okay? Come see us tomorrow. We'll give you a map. You can go to some of these places and enjoy a nice paranormal investigation, except maybe out by that Radio Shack place. Thank you very much. Any questions?